So our education system is flawed, but we all know that. One of the many reasons for this flawed and unfairness is because we have different teachers of differing abilities, techniques, and policies. Although the system can never be perfected, we can get as close as possible. Using my 11 or so years of public schooling experience, I analyzed a few of my favorite and least favorite teachers in an attempt to see what made them what they were. One of my favorite teachers was my 8th grade U.S. history teacher. Every day we would get into his class and he would have a new lecture prepared for us, either about government, politics, or maybe something that happened in the last day that either annoyed him or affected us somehow. He would explain to us. He treated us as intellectual individuals, and he really connected us to the outside world. And even after he retired and I left the school, I'm still in contact with him today. So, to contrast him, one of my least favorite teachers of all time was a science teacher I had earlier this year. Every day we would get into her class, and she was just a perfect example of what not to do. She was condescending, unapproachable, overly serious, and just really shouldn't be a teacher. But every day we would get into her class, and we would do something that I hate most about our education system today, and that's PowerPoint notes. Teachers think that it's acceptable to just put up a PowerPoint and have students copy it word for word down, and then just click next for the whole period. It doesn't really teach us anything. It shows us that teachers not only are unknowledgeable, but also that they don't care. So, high school students need to be entertained. Okay, high school students need to be entertained. Some may argue otherwise, but I personally think it's very true. If they're not entertained, they'll find other stuff to do, such as going on their phones, or falling asleep, or talking to other students. So one of the teachers I had in 8th grade was one of the most boring people I've ever met. Every day we would get into her class, and she would give us a grammar worksheet, and then tell us to read a book until the end of the period. Every single day. Naturally, nobody did the work, and we just went on our phones or did work for other classes. So, moving on from junior high, as I moved on to high school, most of the bad teachers I had in high school have been just as bad, if not worse. For example, a science teacher I had in 9th grade, when I first got into her class, on the first day of school, I thought she was going to be great. She seemed like a nice person, fun to talk to, and just an overall good person. I have never been so wrong. She was one of the most frustrating people to work with, all for one reason. She was arrogant. She was convinced that she was the ultimate god in all of science, and that nobody was above her, except for maybe Hank Green, who she worshipped like a god. One of my favorite stories from her class was when one of her students asked if she could have an extension on the lab report that was due this weekend, as that the day it was due was her quinceañera. My teacher replied, "Sounds like you picked a bad day to have a quinceañera," which is generally on the 15th birthday. But, this teacher, she was stubborn and she was uncaring, both of which are what I have come to call the 4 deadly attributes of teaching. Boring, stubborn, unknowledgeable, and uncaring. Knowing that students are the most important part of the education system, I reached out to Twitter to find out what a few of my colleagues thought of these attributes. So, as you can see, the results were unsurprising. Unknowledgeable was obviously the least wanted quality, closely followed by uncaring. So, in short, to be a good teacher, you must be interested. Don't do the same thing every day in class. If you do, students will start to rely on your period as a study hall because they can predict what they want to do in the class, and they'll do other spots as homework. Yeah. Don't be stubborn. Accept that both you and the students will make mistakes, and it's important to acknowledge these mistakes as that's part of the learning process. Know your subject. It's surprising how many teachers just don't seem to know the subject. It's pretty simple. So, and last but not least, care about your students. A really simple thing that you can do to show that you care about your students is learn all of their names. So even though doing all of these things won't change terrible teachers into great ones, we will hopefully get our education system to a point where having a bad teacher is no longer an excuse, which I think is a good enough goal for the mess that is our education system. Thank you.